Hello.
Hi guys.
So we've already done a video about a full trip report about everything, but we wanted to be more specific in regards to the ports, as well as show you some visuals of what the ports look like and what you can expect on a Virgin Voyages Irresistible Med itinerary.
Yeah, give you some tips and tricks as to what to look out for on this specific cruise, because we did a little research before we started and there wasn't anything specific to the ports themselves. So this video is going to be all about the ports.
Right. So there wasn't really a comprehensive thing for Virgin Voyages specifically. We kind of pieced together things as we researched each port. But for those going on Virgin Voyages, this is hopefully going to be helpful to you. So let's get started. So the Irresistible Med cruise starts in Barcelona, at least as of 2023. That's where it starts. And so we arrived about 36 hours before our cruise embarked, and I definitely recommend getting to that port wherever, no matter where you're cruising, get to that port 24 to 36 hours before to give some buffer time with flights. There's always a chance that your flight could be delayed or a flight could be canceled, and you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get to that port. So build yourself in enough time. We got there on schedule, so we had 36 hours in Barcelona, and that was great to experience Barcelona, before we had to get on the ship. So definitely recommend that. And then when we embarked, we headed out, and the first full day, our first port of call was Toulon, France. And this is a long time Navy port for the country of France, and it was a very nice port. There was a train.
Yeah, so I would say one of the first tips is definitely recommend as soon as you get off. It was pretty much right in front. As soon as we got off, the train was right there. And so this train...
It's not an actual train.
No, let's specify. It's not an actual train. It's kind of like a tram. Yeah, that's in the shape of a train. Yeah. So this tram or train has 3 specific stops. One of them, the very first one, is the one you see at the port. The second one is going to be at the beach. And then the third one is kind of like in the main hub.
Town center type place. So we rode this, I think it was like 10 euros per person. And
very
so we rode to the beach. We didn't get off of the beach. We just kind of used it as a way to get familiar with Toulon and just see some sights. But our goal was to get to town center. But we could have walked to town center just fine, but we felt like doing the cruise would give us, let us see more. So we rode it by the beach, which was nice. If you want to do a beach day there, that's an opportunity for you to do so. And then we continued over to town center, did the things in town center. We didn't take it back to the port because from town center you can walk easily to the ship.
Yeah, it was only maybe not even 10 minutes.
Yeah, not even a 10-minute walk. So super accessible, but the little tram is, I think, worth it.
Yeah, and so that third and final stop, the second one in the town center, is along the water, and along the water there were plenty of places to eat.
Yes.
Which we stopped and got crepes.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
We got crepes and had a coffee there before getting back on the ship. I'm looking over here because I'm looking to make sure we're on track and reading what the
we
next
have our
place
notes
is.
here.
We have our notes.
So we want to give you all the details and all the good stuff.
So, the Toulon is a very nice city. Some days there'll be a market. The day that we were there, I think it was a holiday and there was no market. So you'll also find markets there. So it's a great thing to be able to walk around. You can also find Virgin has excursions. We didn't do an excursion here, but you can get the vibe of the area just by walking around. So then on the next day, we were in Spezia, which is a port that gave us access to Florence and Pisa. I believe Spezia is not being used as a port by Virgin anymore. It's a different port. But it still gives you access to Florence and Pisa. And so for this day, we did book an excursion, and we booked the excursion that took us both to Florence and to Pisa all in one day.
Which was a very long day.
It was a long day. It was a lot. So just be aware of that. Our advice is to pick either Pisa or Florence to go to. So just think about that when you're considering this, because doing both in one day is quite a bit. Because it's about a 2 and a half hour drive from the port to Florence, and then from Florence you go to Pisa, which is about an hour and a half, and then you then have another hour to get back to the port after Pisa. So
it's definitely an all-day excursion.
It is an all-day excursion, and you don't get much time in each location. So keep that in mind. Like, it's a very kind of fast pace. You're mostly driving in this excursion because you're getting to that location, seeing it for about 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending. Florence was kind of a 2-hour experience, and Pisa was like 45 minutes. So very quick. So just keep that in mind. But very thankful to have seen those places, but it was exhausting.
Yeah, and so I would say for Florence, it's definitely There's shop heavy. There's some pretty good landmarks. Pisa, I would say, is more just landmarks. You have the Leaning Tower, Pisa.
At least from what we saw, because we didn't see any of Pisa that was, in terms of like historical, outside of the Leaning Tower and the Duomo there in Pisa. So we didn't see anything. I think there was another side of Pisa that we could probably have seen, but for us in the short time, like what was kind of controlled for us, being part of a tour group, we didn't really see anything outside of the Leaning Tower and the Duomo of Pisa. So anyway, that's it. You also stay in port for wherever port you are. My sister and brother-in-law were joining us on this cruise. They didn't come with us on that excursion. They stayed in La Spezia, and they had a great time. You can also get boats to take you up and down the coast of Italy, which is another great experience. So lots of options here. You don't have to go into Florence. But this is kind of like your big stop in terms of, well, it's the only Italian stop, the only stop in Italy. So you have some really great excursions to choose from for this one. Just be mindful and just know that it's probably going to be an exhausting day if you do an excursion, whether you're getting on a boat to go up and down the coast or going inland.
Yeah, so. It was funny when we got back. We had some of the crewmates or some of the people that went along with us saw us on the ship the next day or so, and they were like, "Oh, you guys survived!" Yeah, it was a very long day.
We were all still recovering the next day. So, all right. So the next day, thankfully, was a day at sea for this itinerary. So we had an opportunity to recover and rest. Exactly. This is a great opportunity to do maybe the spa or something on the ship, experience on the ship. They have all types of experiences on the ship. But
I recommend bingo.
Oh yes, we won at bingo. Yeah. So then our next stop. This was basically our third stop on the itinerary. It was day 5. Was Ajaccio, and this is on a French island, and this is the birthplace of Napoleon Bonaparte. That's kind of like their claim to fame. But it's a very pretty port. You're kind of like in this bay area with mountains in the distance, and there's a fort there that you can explore. This is another one where we just walked around and took it all in, and I didn't feel gypped by that. Like, it was a great time, like just walking around and taking everything in.
Yeah, they do offer excursions again, but this is the one where we kind of just walked around and did our own thing. Yeah. And then a pro tip for this one, this does have access to a very small beach. So if you wanted to have another beach day, this stop could be one of them. It's not a fancy beach by any means, but it is a spot where you can lay your towel down and, get a suntan in if you want it.
So the final stop on this itinerary is Ibiza, Spain, which is really unique for this itinerary because you stay in Ibiza overnight.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So on basically day 6 of this itinerary, you get to Ibiza about 7 p.m. You're able to get off the ship at about 7 p.m. So that's what we did. We got off the ship, walked around Ibiza town, and the port, or where you dock, is very close. You can walk into what they call Ibiza town. The whole island is Ibiza, but it's a pretty big island. Yeah. So the specific area that you are... basically you're docked in is called Ibiza town. This is where a lot of the famous clubs are, nightlife, restaurants, etc. So we walked around, kind of took it all in, and then we found a restaurant to eat at that evening.
Which is very good.
It was a very good restaurant. And then we walked in front of Pacha, which is the most famous club in Ibiza town. We didn't go in. We decided to be old people, and we didn't go in.
Yeah.
But I know TJ has a pro tip for you here on that.
Yeah, so the pro tip for this is if you know you're going to do a club, always book your tickets in advance. They will be online, and it's better to book them in advance because they'll be cheaper.
I think it's like if you know what night you're going to go in, go look at, like if you want to go to Pacha, go on their website, look. I think the tickets for the night that we were there, if you bought them in advance, it was like €40 online. But if you bought them the night of at the door, it was like 80 to 90 euros. Yeah. So pro tip for that. So then we, from Pacha, we didn't get back on, they do have a bus that takes you from the port in kind of the city center or town center, closer to where everything is. And we took that coming in off the ship. But on the way back, we just walked from Pacha to the ship. And it was an easy walk. It was about a 15 to 20 minute walk.
Yeah, and that bus continuously runs all night.
Yeah, I think it's like every 30 minutes. It runs the whole time the ship is in port. And so you're in port overnight, so you can go party if you want. You can get back to the ship at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whenever you want to. And then the ship stays docked until 4 p.m. the next day. So we came back to the ship about midnight or so. We were back at the ship. We slept, did our thing on the ship, had breakfast, I believe, on the ship, and then that next day we went out again to Ibiza town to explore kind of in the daylight. And they do have like a castle / fortress there in Ibiza town, which we explored and walked through. They were having a festival while we were there, medieval festival,
which is pretty cool. Yeah.
A Renaissance festival while we were there. So we did that. That was a unique part of our time for being there. And Ibiza town is really nice. It has a nice vibe.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, very like kind of stereotypical like Mediterranean vibe that you kind of would expect from the postcards. And yeah, so we had a great time there. And then that's it for the ports. You go to basically 3 countries. You go to France, Italy, and Spain. And it's kind of a really nice, well-rounded Mediterranean sailing.
Yeah, and then so we'll wrap up with some big last-minute pro tips. I would say one of them being make sure you download Google Maps, because Google Maps is going to be your best friend. We downloaded some of the loaded maps.
So every city so every city that I knew that we were going to be in, I downloaded the map of that city. So it didn't take any extra data when I'm in Google Maps. It didn't take data to load. Of course, we were using data when we were there to like help us navigate the streets and the GPS and whatever. But in terms of if for something happened to the data or there was a spot where we couldn't get a good signal, I already had the maps downloaded to my phone. So definitely have those maps downloaded to your phone. You could do it for your own city too, just for safety. Have that city loaded into your phone, and that feature is on Google Maps. I'm not sure if it's on any of the other map apps, but definitely grab those and download those from Google Maps.
Yeah, another one I would say along with Google is Google Translator. Going into a different country, I know definitely for me, I didn't want to kind of stick out like a sore thumb when it came to like the language barrier, which wasn't big. There were a lot of people that were very helpful and spoke English, which was awesome. But I would say as far as Google Translate, it helps to use the image, and you can look at the menus when you go to restaurants and things like that, and it'll translate it for you.
Yeah, basically you use the camera, and then the camera translates the text that's being shown on your camera. And you can download languages to Google Translate as well. So you're not having to rely on data for everything, just in case you don't have connection.
And then like as far as language, I would say the biggest things to kind of prepare yourself for are stuff like simple phrases to use in restaurants, in hotels, and then the biggest one is where's the bathroom and how much it costs. Right. Because that was kind of a culture shock for me that you have to pay for the bathroom.
But overall, there's not a huge language barrier. Pretty much everywhere you go, in terms of where we went, people spoke English. Yeah. And it was very accessible. There wasn't really much of a language barrier at all. Any situation where like, oh my gosh, we can't we can't move forward or take the next step because we don't know the language.
So you didn't feel helpless, yeah.
Yeah, it was never any helpless. Pretty much everywhere we went, people spoke English. So if you're nervous about that, don't be nervous. It's gonna be fine. It's, prepare as much as you can, but do not stress about it. Just get out there and travel. Yeah, that's what we got. I mean, hopefully you kind of got a better understanding of each of the ports. We definitely didn't do a lot of the excursions, so we focused more on walking around the port, except for that La Spezia in Italy. We wanted that opportunity since it was our first time in Italy to see one of the major cities in Italy, so we did the Florence-Pisa one. But you can walk around and experience markets and restaurants and just kind of go in there and
kind of envelop yourself.
Look and see what the landmarks are in the town and go from there, and it'll fill up your day pretty nicely. So, all right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed. If you're interested in booking a Virgin Voyages cruise, check the links in our description. We have a link there. If you're interested, fill out the form, and our friend Liz, who is a Virgin Voyages pro, she will get you a quote and get you booked on your Virgin Voyage so that you can sail the Mediterranean like us.
Yeah, and have a great time.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Okay.